Hi, welcome to the Jen Hayward Show. I'm Jen Hayward. I've recently come from a massage, so my face has all my redness because I had all that relaxation from Contimavik massage. It was great. And as always, I'll just chat for a little bit, boringly, while a few people log in, and then we will bring on our guest. And we have a very special guest today, Jason Petrinuk, and I will figure out for sure if that's a pronunciation because I've heard it's rude to pronounce people's names incorrectly. And as an MC, I should have checked that first. But he'll be talking a bit, but he is a local small business owner. He owns a trade show. He does a podcast, which is very good. He's an MLMer for rated outs. He's got 17 years in the Ottawa area. And he also has his own program where he trains and coaches people to do their very best. So thank you guys for coming on. Those of you who, again, every week I tell you, if you're coming on my personal page, that means that I won't be able to see any of your comments because I'm using StreamYard to go on multiple platforms. So if you move on over to the Jen Hayward Show on YouTube or onto the Facebook, the Jen Hayward Show, I'll be able to see your comments. If you don't want to comment, then don't worry about it where you watch it from, right? So before I bring Jason on, I just want to talk about something that's been annoying me, just because that's why I have this platform. It has nothing to do with Jason because he doesn't annoy me too much. I've been reading more and more about the snowbirds who are upset about coming back to Canada. And anyone who knows me knows I'm like a really, really compassionate person-ish. Fuck off, Josh. No, but I mean, I rarely say tough shit. Like, I like to see the genesis of thought and see people's point of views and see where you come from. But I mean, we've been in a pandemic since the beginning, and there's been travel advisory since the beginning. Like it says right on there, don't even go to the States, it says. And it says you're going to be stranded. Like, you may get stranded. So that's what happens. So people are either stranded or they have to pay $2,000 to come back to the country because I don't know what hotel they're putting them up at, but that's an expensive hotel. Regardless of the policies beside it, I just don't want to read any more stories on this. I would like to hear more stories of frontline workers, of people supporting. I'm not saying politically I agree with the decisions that Trudeau has made or Ford has made, but the warnings were there. You made your bed, you lied. And if you can afford to go live in Florida for the winter and enjoy all that warmth, you can enjoy to pay the $2,000, which hopefully will eventually get back to one of us small business owners. So that's just a little bit of Jen's beef for today. And again, for those who just logged on, thank you. Even someone from YouTube today. If you're on the Jen Hayward Show, you can make comments and I can see them. But if you're on my personal page, you cannot. So you can make comments, but I won't see them. So if someone is on the Jen Hayward Show or on YouTube, you want to make a comment, let me know. I'm going to pop it on the screen, unless, of course, it's my husband and he's going to put something like Mr. Douchebag or something inappropriate. All right. So without further ado, I'm going to bring on Jason J-Man Petrinuk, and we will give all sorts of applause. Hey, Jason.
Okay, I'm glad my clothes are on. There we go.
They are, yeah. No, we're in the green room, so to speak. Jason, how are you today?
I'm doing fantastic. I just finished sharing the Jen Hayward Show there on my phone, so I looked a little bit preoccupied.
Thank you.
Now I'm ready. I got my old school coffee mug, and I'm ready to talk shit. Let's go.
He's ready to talk shit. No, this is okay. My husband, I made a promise. If someone said, this is how the comments work. If someone makes a comment, I might put it up. I don't know if Josh is asking if you're Mr. Douchebag or because, and
you just called me Mr. Douchebag.
I did. Shush, it's the Jen Hayward Show. Anyway, this is how we work. So for those who don't know, Jason has a multitude of talents, and he has a very polished podcast, which I think was why he's a little reluctant probably to come to mine. He's like, well, what do you do? I said, well, we're going to talk about lessons. You're going to help educate people. And so Jason like researches and he does like really in-depth work, and he really focuses on one topic per person. And I can't focus on one topic at any given time. So even right now, I'm having a lot of fun, but I'm thinking about tomorrow's forecast numbers on the road. It's just who I am. So Jason has this very polished, I even have your banner up. It's here. It's called the Launchpad, featuring J-Man. I know, right? And
look how fancy all this shit is. Oh my god!
I learned it. I changed the logo to yours.
Oh my god! All right.
Yeah.
All regrets are gone. This is wicked.
Yeah. So before we get into it, I do want to say, your podcast I do like, and in your format's interesting because I've never seen that before. I almost copied it, but then I was like, well, then I'm copying it. But you pre-record it, make it all nice, and then you have a watch party where you watch it with people, right?
Right. But I don't edit the podcast. We just go once straight through. I don't do it so I can make things sound any better. I keep things original as they were recorded. And then it just allows me the freedom to be able to do other things like record other podcasts, because I hate doing things live now after 17 years of doing radio. It's such a nice, to not have to do it anymore. So I don't put myself on the hot seat like that. So, but here I am doing a live broadcast with you.
Only the charm of Jen Hayward is going to bring you out live.
That's what it
I can nag anyone into doing stuff. Oh, no, that's good. I'm not sure how I'd feel about a watch party watching myself. Like I like being here, but I don't like watching me. And I think that's a female thing. But so you don't have a problem with that. Hey, you're like,
no, well, it gives me the opportunity to have a conversation with people as I do the podcast. So one of my favorite things to do, when my guests are in there, I do my best to try to pull away 10 takeaways. I try to make a top 10 list. Yeah. So as the speaker, who is the showstopper, as they go on with their dialogue, hopefully I ask good enough questions to where it brings some solid responses. And then I basically kind of just unpack what they said and put it into a simple line or two so people can really get the most out of what that individual's saying.
That's good. I just don't know if I could do that. I don't know if I could like listen to people and I'd be like, what do you mean you don't like that comment? Fuck off. Like that's just my personality. So I like this. People can make comments and it's live and then we're having a conversation. But it's neat. No, I've gone to a couple of them. You send the invites out and that's good. But that's not all you do. I think you had quite a thriving thing going on right before COVID hit. And you're in one of the industries that was hit quite hard, right? Right.
Basically, the entertainment industry. Me and my business partner, Sean Gallant, we have a trade show that happens out in Petawawa. It's called Petawawa Showcase. And it's this anomaly of a thing. It's been around for about 2 decades, and we do about 10,000 people through the doors in 3 days to where they can share their profession, their product, their passion, whatever it might be. We have big industry like Reliance Home Comfort. Then we have some lady making homemade body butters. It's really outstanding.
It's just Petawawa. It's like
it's just people come from all around. We have people from Quebec. We have people from Ontario. You wouldn't believe how far the Showcase brand has gone throughout that time. And what we've been doing over the past 2 years working together is really improving on making that show as inclusive as possible to everyone. So number one, there's no charge to go to the show. We don't charge for entertainment, and we don't rip people off at tables and charge for extras like electricity. And if you want an extra chair, if you want an extra chair, we're just gonna give you a fucking chair. Like,
oh no, there's a waiver to sign. They may
walk away. That's how we operate. And this year, we really kind of had it figured out, and we were really interested in finally being able to execute it. And then we find out shortly before the show is ready to go in April that we're not able to have a show at all because of all this stuff.
Well, and that's a huge loss because then we're coming up on April. No way you can do it this year, right?
We're optimistic that something will happen. It may not be in April, but hopefully later on in the summer, possibly in the fall, but definitely hoping that it sticks. I mean, someone made a really great analogy that we're all in the same boat, and someone said, wait, we're not all really in the same boat. We're kind of all in the same storm, and we all have different sized boats, right? And so many people on one boat and so many people on the other boat. And just for me in particular, I'm happy that I'm a resourceful individual and I'm a well-networked guy to where I was able to make a pivot, but I'm still having a difficult time not being able to go out there and do what I know what I do best with the family that I've cultivated over these years, being able to help a whole bunch of entrepreneurs at one time. So, I'll speak for Sean and myself here to where, and I can only imagine what it's like for, well, I mean, really I don't like to say they're our employees, but I'll use the term for like just for namesake. But it's like, we have 140 employees that come to our trade shows every year, and we feel bad that as, the boss, as the authority figure, that we can't do more for them. So we've transitioned to, an online show, some networking events and things of that nature to try to ease the blow. But, our minds and our hearts are most definitely with, the people that put their trust in us to put on a good show for them.
Well, and I think that's neat, and I'll definitely check it out when I'm not known for going to Petawawa unless I have to deliver something. And no, I've done comedy. I've performed there quite a few times.
Right.
But I think that's it when you say you're resourceful and stuff. And I think that's where different people have different skill sets, and so some people can make what we've, the overused term, but it's true, the pivot, and that's, where you have enough of a skill set and a network, but you also just won't go down, right? Like it just, you won't go down fighting, but we're also, you seem to have a presence online. We'll get back to like all of your entrepreneur stuff, but you have a presence that I used to call it like a little bit of shit disturbing, because that's what I thought when I'd read it. But then I realized as I listened more and I listened to your podcast, you're trying to start dialogues and you have a really good intention. Because we're not no one is ever going on your post and going, hey, wait a minute, I really think you made a good point there. Thank you for educating me. I am forever changed. Like people aren't doing that. And so you want to get people together talking about these things. So you'll post something and then try and get a dialogue going about it. But it goes backwards pretty quick. I'm never offended by anything you've posted except for the one. And I wasn't even offended by it. I was just, I don't know if you recall, I've never private messaged anyone in my life to say, hey, I don't think that post was good. And I did that with you. I've never done that. So that's pretty special, Jason.
Right. Yeah. I think I'm really down the middle with things. I have people ask themselves questions. I mean, there's nothing I can say that really upsets anybody when you want to get down to the nuts and bolts of it, right? Yeah. I get angry. I make a choice to get angry. I'll blame somebody else for what they say or do, but at the end of the day, it's up to me to decide how I want to react to something. Yeah. So when somebody gets really upset at something that I might post, I think, well, what's going on in their world that they're so angry with me, right? I just put words up on a screen and asked a question. And it's interesting how many people will sometimes misinterpret what I say on words because that's where they're coming from, opposed to if they follow up and have a conversation with me after the fact. I mean, I can generally back up anything I say, or if I think it's pure speculation, I'll say it's speculation. And I'll spend about 70 or 80% of the time agreeing with a lot of what the other person has to say, right? But there's always like this little bit of, fundamental truth that I think always lays behind that people will generally disregard because, that's the O.J. Simpson glove, right? That will that will ruin their stance. That will tear down the case. And it's interesting how there can be some overwhelming evidence sometimes that supports whatever our belief system might be. But if you were to take something like this to a court of law, right, opposed to just the court of social opinion, a lot of these opinions and stances, they wouldn't hold up. I've always really focused on, let's find the couple of things that will tear the house down. And let's discuss that.
Let's look at health statistics.
That's where the learning is.
Yeah.
Right? That's where the learning is, really.
Well, no, I think I agree. And in sort of the theme of the lessons learned, that is one of the things, because I see you generally being open or pretending to be open, but I think you are. I mean, I made it through one of your podcasts, but it was like a debate, but it wasn't a debate. It was really a civil, wonderful conversation with people. And definitely two of us were on the Jason side, but not Jason, but like, it was really one of the COVID discussions. And the other guy, it was interesting because he's a frontliner who kind of went between you and us because it isn't an easy answer. There is no black and white, so to speak, answer that this is the definitive thing. So you can't have a discussion about anything now. And everyone has their own, and I hate the word triggers, but has their own things that come up as a result. And then sometimes I think we all forget that we're freaking business owners sometimes. And some of these debates have spilled into weren't we networking about how we can support each other's business? And now we're like blocking each other. And I'm sure I've lost business. I'm sure other people have lost business over philosophical discussions that I don't even know if they belong in the workplace. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I had a complaint once from someone who signed up 2 years ago because we delivered for Wicked Wandas, and they said, well, we're not sure we want to be associated with anyone who delivers sex toys. And I said, do you accept things from Canada Post? Yeah, then shut up. You just don't ask me what I'm doing. You know what I mean? But it's just because it's there, and everyone, but their point of view was their brand might be hurt. So you're pretty big on branding. I've seen that. You're very good. You're working. Is that one of the things that has sort of got you to where you are? Because you have a multitude of things that you do, but everything has a distinct brand, but it all comes back to you. So my question is, are you the brand, or is the brand you?
I'm the brand.
You're the brand. Okay, there you go.
Buy from those that they
There's
like,
your lesson for the hour. And is that because, and is it because you're authentic, like regardless of whatever, or why do you think you're the brand? And what is your brand?
You know what? Naturally, I've just always kind of gravitated towards doing my thing. Even when I was in radio back in the day, maybe when I wasn't at the Bear or in that organization, I was with Standard Broadcasting for a bit. But when I got to Dog FM, and it was an independently owned station, I started doing things like going out there and getting my own website and doing my own branding, the name for my own show, because I thought it was really important that, yes, you know what, while I'm here and I'm spinning these tunes for the people that like the music, this is an opportunity for me as well to build up my network. Like, I'm bringing an audience here too. They're not just all here for the music. What happens if I don't have this anymore?
Yeah.
Right. And it's not to slam the 9-to-5er, right? I love the 9-to-5s. And if you enjoy what you do, that's awesome. You give purpose. That stuff's all great. But then once you're gone, then what? You're just kind of like left to your own devices. And generally it's either through a referral, a network, right? Or you have a good resume and you sell yourself. So it's just always top of mind that whatever I do, that at the end of the day, I'm left with myself. So I got into MLM maybe about 7 years into my radio career, or 8 years into my radio career.
Multi-level marketing, for those who don't know.
Network marketing, multi-level marketing. And I quickly realized that as much as I love MLM, at the end of the day, it's a business. And what it's most concerned about is that their name gets out there. At the time, I was working with Visalis, which no longer exists.
Yeah.
Visalis, of course, wants you to make money because everybody makes money if they make money.
Yeah.
So sorry, if I'm the distributor, I'm making money, they're making money. But at the end of the day, they know that the majority of people are going to fail because they just quit, because it's not easy. But if their name got out to 5 or 10 more people that could potentially buy product, well, that's great. Yeah. I quickly realized that I don't want to be the brand, like in regards to Visalis. Jason Petrinuk has to be this brand. And the Shake, Visalis, was a tool that I associated with my brand, right? So it's like I'm endorsing them is basically how I used to look at it. So I came up with a group called Agents of Change, right? Which was all about being a catalyst of change in people's lives. And I gave myself a fancy title called a transformation technician, because I have the ability to transform people's lives physically and financially. And we used to do a whole bunch of charitable things. Like, we just show up at charities, and I have sometimes 3 people, 10 people. We would do things like walks as a team. And then people say, oh, yeah, what a great group. And just, this is, Agents of Change. And this is what we do. And we also believe in living a healthy lifestyle. And this is one of the tools that we use to help people get there, this stepstone or this stepping stone shake-based process. So always about, myself being the brand and attaching another brand, kind of like it's an affiliate market. And I see a lot of people doing that. It's the best way as far as I'm concerned.
Well, I think I had Carla Briones on last week, and I said the same thing, because there's a lot of global pet foods out there, but I go and support hers because she's put herself in front of their brand, because they get their money regardless. And I don't know, I feel I'm the same with Go For It, but I don't want to be the brand. I actually want Go For It to be the brand so I can sell it. And then it's just like, it's not, or whatever it is, it's just because but the reality is I can go to my Go For It network and my MailChimp that has more people than my Facebook, and I'm going to get less responses than me posting on Facebook. I don't know why. But that's where I think you and I are similar. Our political beliefs, I do not believe are, but I think we are similar in that we're both authentic, and I think we both have a desire to help people. And I think that we have different ways that we think to do it. But back to you. So I want to go because you have lots of different things. What did you want to be when you grew up? So when you were a little Jason, just on his little, what was the dream as a child or youth?
I think it would be to play sports.
Okay.
Even though I probably knew that I wasn't going to play sports. I was small for a very long time, and I saw the kids that were doing well. I always performed very highly, but I was always around giants, and I know how difficult it is to play amongst giants when it comes to pro sports. And I did have a little bit of a voice when I was younger, and people would always be shocked by my voice. And they'd always say, oh, you should do radio, or will you sing, or will you do something? So I did have a very strong understanding that I had a tool in my arsenal that I could always fall back on. But when I think about it, I think I always had this entrepreneurial spirit inside, going all the way back to when I was in grade school. I was fascinated by marbles and wanting to accumulate a lot of marbles and understanding the value of what these marbles will, not to me, what the value of the marbles were to other people, right? And what I could get for whatever it is that I decide to put out. Let me explain that again, right? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what I like.
Yeah.
Right? If I'm playing marbles and I'm just thinking about what I would like to win, who cares? Right? What I want to do is I want to find something that the person that's playing marbles wants to win. Right? It's about the marketplace. So when you're playing marbles, the people shooting, that's the marketplace. I'm the business. I'm looking to collect as many of those shooters as possible. Right? And what I'm selling is that fancy marble that I might not even give a shit about, but they want to win this boulder, the naked lady, or whatever they call it. Like that's it.
What the hell did you grow up? I never played marbles in my life.
You never played marbles in the schoolyard?
No.
You put your legs like in a V, and they would try to hit like the little BBs, and depending on like what? Come on.
My husband's going like this.
Get out of town.
Are you from Ontario?
Well, I never saw black and white TV, so that was a joke. That was a joke right there.
I know. I heard it.
That was it.
I don't know your age, but I'm assuming it's similar.
43. 43. I used to go to Bayview, which was off Riverside. They now smashed it so they can build some condos. I cried inside a little bit.
Is that where you played marbles?
I played marbles there, and also hockey cards. When I was like 14, 15 years old, I understood the value of hockey cards when other people didn't.
No, my husband and I have both confirmed we have never played marbles.
You're missing out.
Oh, no, sorry. My husband is going, I've never played marbles. Yeah, I didn't because I was an athlete and I trained all the day. So anyway, my husband likes to put his 2 cents in. I don't know if you knew that. I was an elite kayaker when I was
fantastic. That's awesome.
Yeah, Western Canadian Championship. Woo!
That's a big deal.
Conversation for another day.
Okay.
But so yeah, you had that entrepreneurial spirit and wanted to be and so you take like this is where one of our fundamental differences. Like you definitely like take your health seriously and your presentation and I mean I never not the health. I never took that seriously, but I mean I had an eating disorder and I used to weigh 400 pounds. So now I'm happy with anything that I am.
Right.
And work on. Every day is a challenge. Hey, if I didn't die, I'm doing well, right? But you've always had that. And no, is that not? I think you said I asked you before.
That's an assumption. Okay. And by the way, like health has not necessarily all to do with how a person looks, right? Before you were unhealthy, now you're healthy, healthier at least. You must have taken years.
Looking, I know that, but the thing is, before when I was large, I would never go out without makeup, without anything. This is very rare for me, but it's because I've hit that. Like I'm 46, but I think secretly I'm 80, and so I'm like, I don't know if you've ever seen the poem where the lady just says "fuck it" and goes out with the purple hat, but that seems to be me. I just don't care anymore. Or maybe it's just I'm too good looking when I wear makeup and it becomes a problem for people. So I didn't want to overwhelm you, Jason.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. I'm here for the people.
I used to be like 220, 225. Like I was not in good shape. I didn't like myself. I used to be the guy in high school, played on all the sports teams. I made my college basketball team the first year. I remember loved taking off my shirt because that would get me some attention. Why not, right? Try to get a little bit of you know what. And by the time I left college, I did not take my shirt off for years. Like for years, I was probably 28, 29. Like it's probably a good solid 7, 8 years where I didn't take my shirt off. And then I decided that I just wanted to make a change. Shortly thereafter, I got started in shake-based nutrition, network marketing. And I mean, that's probably a reason why I love it so much, right? Because it just had such a profound change in my life. And I know that the people that I spoke to about MLM were people that was like, this is something that works for me and I think it could work for you, opposed to I want to try to get money out of your pockets like so many other people.
Well, I think that's it. I think I told you one of my experiences when I first lost my job was someone who messaged me and said, I have a comedy connection for you from Facebook. And I was like highly dubious because I know most people in comedy. It's not a huge, I think there's 5 people who will hire you, especially back then. And I was like, all right. And I took the call and then she said some guy and he was like some really low level, like open mic. And I said, what are you talking about? And then she said, oh, by the way, have I got a deal for you? And I was really turned off. And I think, unfortunately, that's lots of people's experience. But I see you adamantly advocate that MLM can be done properly and that you actually have a program that helps people. Is this correct?
Yeah, it's called Everybody's Upline. And thank you for bringing that up. Huh? You did your research.
I did, yes.
Like even in the Bosses Helping Bosses group, in which we know one another, give it a little shout out right there, 6,000 plus members. There was a recent message that was put in there, and I know there wasn't any slight meant by it, but it said something like, we support all businesses, even MLM.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, what does that even mean? You know what I mean? It's like, we support all women, but not the anorexic ones. Like it just makes.
There's a large women's group in the city that won't allow MLMs. Maybe that's why. But.
I don't know, but so it's nice that they said we do include. But for me, it's a given that it should. That in itself is what creates the taboo.
Yeah.
Right. Is that it's like, is this a form of business? And it absolutely is. If anything, it's the training grounds. Where a lot of people, let's say you just want to start your own brick and mortar. You just go out there, you do it, you spend a whole bunch of money. Hopefully you have some mentors and you give it a stab. And we know the statistics. Most people fail. But, someone will give you the pat on the back for losing $100,000. Like, good job. Right. And then the person that goes out there spends $500 is showered with personal development and people that want them to win. A team that's right there from the get-go. I mean, and it's up to them to do their research as well to make sure that they're on a team that is going to nurture and help them grow. But even if that's not the case, to go out there and read good literature. I mean, Jim Rohn, Tony Robbins, Zig Ziglar. There's all these individuals. Robin Sharma, like Grant Cardone. Take your pick. A whole bunch of individuals that are loaded with personal development that will help you succeed in whatever business venture that you want to take on. In the Greatness Guide with Robin Sharma, there's this one great chapter where he talks about picking up a book, and it gives you the ability to sit down with anybody that's ever walked this earth, and they will tell you how they did what they did. They'll walk you through it, so you can make less mistakes. And, MLM is just this beautiful battleground where if you're willing to put in the time and you have the proper mentor, this is where you learn it all. This is where I learned it all. People like Jason O'Toole, John Martin, for instance, Rob Hamilton, his wife, Jana, some individuals that have just poured into me over the years. I had the good fortune through MLM to where I performed well. And John C. Maxwell was also a mentor for only 100 people within a company of hundreds of thousands. And I got to jump on a call with him, every week for about 3 months. The opportunities it's afforded me and the ability to think out of the box and have to brand for yourself, to build your own business, really, even though I understand that you don't have all the responsibilities that you would with a brick and mortar, if you put the proper amount of time in with the right people, it's going to be something that absolutely transforms your life and the way that you view things, as well as how you view people. And Everybody's Upline is me basically standing up for that person that maybe got started in network marketing. They don't have a strong upline. possibly have a small business, it's not going where you want it to, I can help you with your social
Oh,
media.
now I get it. I didn't get the everyone's upline until you just, because people don't understand network marketing unless they're in network
right.
marketing.
So sorry, upline. When you start in network marketing, the person that signs you up is your upline. Anyone that got started before you in your organization could be considered your upline. And so for people that don't have a strong upline, and most people don't, because they don't do their research and pick their upline, opposed to just getting started with a friend. And I get it, that's how it happens. But if you want to take a much more professional approach about it, you want to make sure that you're set up with someone that is a pro. In network marketing, that's something that I did for over 10 years. I've put in my 10,000 hours and I'm a pro. I generated over, 6 figures in the business. All my upline were millionaires. And all I did was just sit there wide-eyed and jaw-dropped. And I just spent most of my time listening, to where I was fortunate to pick up enough along the way to where I could make a pretty effective mentor for somebody else that might be struggling in their business. And I understand how hard it is for them to spend that money, especially when maybe they didn't want to spend that first 500 and they didn't make any cash. But I'm telling you, if you just find the right person, and maybe that's me, maybe it's somebody else, start off with just buying books and see if you can do it on your own, whatever you want to do. But it really just comes down to consistency, passion, and posture. That was a rant, and thank you for letting me have it out there, Jen.
You're welcome. No, I only interrupt if you're full of horse shit. And it's a thing I don't know about, but it's very similar to business. I didn't know what the heck I was doing, right? So I joined Collab Space, and so
Right.
Emil is he the owner of Collab Space, Emil. He talked to me this year, and he said, I don't even recognize you. And he didn't mean like me personally, I look the same. But he said, like, literally you talk differently. And, and in fact, in a way, I've become much more jaded because I come from the socialist background, and I can't just like, I come from a genesis of thought of ethics and helping everyone, and sometimes it's difficult, right? But when when you're an employer and someone's directly doing a CERB scam in front of you, you have to deal with it. When you deal with a lot of different things. But I also have been on the other side where, I think you and I talked once about this, where like sometimes I'm just so in the middle of things because like I'm Indigenous, I'm Ukrainian, I'm white, I have, I'm feminist, but I'm like, I'm reasonable. And then like, so I'll get attacks, oh, you're just a second wave feminist. I said, well, actually I'm not, I'm just a critical thinker, fuck off. Like, so I get as many attacks sometimes from people saying I'm not doing enough to be an ally, but I said, I have to run a business, right?
Right.
And so I think those mentors that come in, Emil and different people, very much is like what you're doing. There's a lot of coaches out there. So I'm going to ask you a question that I should have known the answer to first, but is your program like cookie cutter, or is it addressed to the individual needs of the person coming to you?
It's a little bit of both.
Okay.
Everyone is coming in from different levels, and what I teach is what I know. Some of it may not be rocket science to one person, and to others it can be an epiphany. Like it blows their minds. I do this thing called the 7 steps to be successful at Showcase, which is a little bit of a teaser that I throw out there that's open to any vendor that wants to just listen in, and then of course give them the pitch to come to Showcase. And 2 of the 3 steps that I cover: stand and smile. And some people's heads are fucking blown. They're blown by that. They're like, I never even thought of it that way. I explained why it's important to stand. I explained why it was important to smile. And more than just being engaging and looking happy and all that kind of stuff, like getting into the psychological aspect of making sure that you're doing those things. What's going to be, the chemical response in the other person by doing that. Just hitting it from different angles. Yeah. But it's a lot dealing with mindset. The first month, a lot of it's just mindset, because I need to make sure that this person is speaking my language. I find personal development, that's a language that people speak. And when you identify with it, sometimes you can catch yourself when maybe you're becoming a little bit insecure, or maybe when you're not listening enough, or you're not asking the right questions. So personal development is huge, making sure that we're talking the same language. My last lesson, someone was saying, well, I thought, I'm like, well, okay, let's stop right there. What are thoughts? Thoughts are just things. They're not real, right? It was an emotional response that you had, and you decided to make a decision based on that thought. When what you're supposed to do with thought, what a scientist would do, is that you would explore that thought. It's a hypothesis, and then you test it out, and then you come to a rational result, right? Opposed to having a thought and then you stop and you're like, well, I think it's going to go there, right?
Yeah.
Where people are constantly stopping themselves. They're the biggest obstacle in their path. And so being able to walk people just through that alone is huge. And then getting into social media and things that people can do on social media that don't cost you a dime. Instead, before you boost a post or you spend money doing this, work on becoming a better storyteller, because that's all it is. Be a good storyteller. Gary V is one of my favorites. Not all the time, because he's incredibly aggressive. But his main thing is like, jab, 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 right hook. Value, 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 value. Like, you're always giving value to people, and you're doing that through effective storytelling. So when eventually it comes around time for you to present the buy, they'll invest. They'll invest in you because you've invested in them. And a great example of that would be this website that I use called PicMonkey. There's another shout out for PicMonkey. It's like a $9 service, and it's kind of like Adobe Photoshop or something like that for dummies. Like, it's sub dummies, like people like me that have absolutely no idea.
Yeah.
Right. And you can use it for free. And I did for probably about a year and a half. And then I started wanting to maybe get into the pro features. And because it offered so much value to me over that long a period of time, I finally paid the money. And I think it's been snaking $10 out of my bank account for the past, 14 months. So being an effective storyteller, and then at the end of the day, just going out there and helping them make the sell. That's really what it's all about. So no, I don't think it's cookie cutter. I don't think it's necessarily for the advanced person in MLM, because they're probably already an effective upline. But I could still be an effective coach for them. No matter where you are, you should always have an upline or a coach, right? Tom Brady, greatest quarterback of all time, still needs a coach, still has coaches and mentors.
I agree with that. Except for my husband. He has me. I'll tell him what to do. He just said, fuck off. But you mentioned some of your mentors and some of the people and the speakers that you look up to. I'm going to throw out there that not one of them were women.
No, they weren't women.
Yeah, and I'm just curious. Well, because
actually, I did. I said Jana. I said.
Oh, you did. Okay, I'm just
Rob's
bad.
wife. Yeah,
okay,
I know. Because you just wanted to nail me into a sexism conversation.
No, it was going to a different question, but I was thinking, was it women?
Ahead.
No,
give it to me. Though. I'd like to hear that question.
Okay, yeah. Well, the question has to do with Tony Robbins. So this comes to do with ethics and people we admire, right? So whoever you admire, that's their thing. So Tony Robbins is definitely on the list, because he's had, besides having ridiculously oversized hands, which look and you'll see, it's really scary. But beyond that, he has, it's a very cult-like environment. That I can accept. I don't like it, but it's not me. It's not Jen. But I've seen him shame a woman because he was basically, saying she was playing the victim, things like that, about the Me Too movement. And so, of course, people would jump before getting all the facts, but the fact is they showed the video and the guy was a complete douche. He was absolutely shaming this woman in public about her assault. And so my question, so I'm not nailing you on that. You weren't there. You had nothing to do with that, but bringing him up as a mentor or someone you look up to. Where does the line between, someone's character as a person and their character as a human? Do you know what I mean? Like he's got a character.
So. Well, I think taking an isolated incident and then judging him as a whole as to whether or not he'd make a good mentor, for me, that would be extreme, because we all make mistakes.
So that's what cancel culture is. And by the way, you and I think we're in agreement. I don't like cancel culture, but that's what cancel culture is people take, something that's happened and they will cancel you, right? And so that's why you have to be careful. But this was one isolated incident. But if you've seen any of his things, it's come on, it's the guy's a
persona. I have seen his stuff. I didn't even know he swore until 3 years ago, I think, when there was a Netflix special. I mean,
oh yeah, I saw that one.
And I was also surprised that Jim Rohn was his mentor, because Jim Rohn is the total opposite of Tony Robbins, as a whole. And when I first came around to Tony Robbins, I couldn't stand him. He was just way too abrasive for me. But he just wasn't right for me at that period of time. So if someone wants to think he's a sexist and not want to have him as a mentor, well, that's the beautiful thing about a mentor. They're a dime a dozen. I mean, you can go to the library any day and you can pick from millions. You just choose the one that's a good fit for you.
I guess, and that's where the more depth comes in how, and maybe you don't care as much, but for me, and I don't mean that, sorry, that sounded really bitchy.
No, not at all. Not at all.
But I mean, I don't just care about perception, but I care about who I'm supporting and who I'm, that, not that we're politically aligned, but if someone it's something I struggle with, and I won't lie, is because there's people, you know what, like I was like, oh yeah, fuck that guy, he did this, and screw this guy. Oh, Al Franken, you know, right. I really like Al Franken.
But why even bother putting your energy there at all? Opposed to, you've identified that Tony Robbins isn't your guy, and now let's just go spend that energy finding someone that's going to serve me.
Yeah. Why? Because it's a bigger there. Agree, Jen, about Tony. Just wanted to say.
Yeah, whatever. Who's that? He's sitting next to you? Whatever.
No, but
listen, and I'm not agreeing
with this conversation with Delio, but it's a bigger question, because it's like there's an interesting thing here where you and I can get along, but we don't see eye on these things. However, it's a thin line, right? Someone
but that's everything, though. You know, one of my favorite books, and it's like, again, like a book for dum-dums like me about thoughts. It's called "You Can Be Happy No Matter What."
Yeah, I know you mentioned it.
Right. It's a wonderful book, and it talks about separate realities, and that's exactly what it is. You just said how many different ways we're separated, right? Yeah. From gender, color, you know,
intelligence,
good looks, beauty. Like you put me to shame, all these things, right? You have a good podcast, mine's bad.
No, yours is good, mine's the bad one.
But how many, like countless, it would have to be millions, if not more. Like, how many different tiny experiences do we have that have been different through life? Like, for instance, I've never once in my life had to walk on the other side of a street from somebody to feel more safe. Yeah. I've never had someone over to my house where, you know, I was afraid, like, if I fall asleep, maybe something bad will happen to me.
Yeah.
You know, like, so that in itself, like, that's mind-blowing. So how could I expect somebody that's so different from me, even though we have this baseline that we're entrepreneurs, we're human beings, we're compassionate individuals, that someone's going to necessarily see things eye to eye with me? I used to get really caught up with that, and it would frustrate me. And that's why, you know, when I talk about things that I do on my Facebook wall that people get upset about, like at the end of the day, I'm telling you, I lose no sleep over it.
Oh, no, like, I saw that. Like, you're just always like, it's cool.
Well, because I know where they're coming from. Like, I'm not a mainstream news watcher. I know.
But I guess that's as an influence.
I will tell you what's going to play on the news tonight. They're going to tell you about how many cases are new of the coronavirus.
63.
They're going to tell you a little bit more about, you know, the new strains. They're going to tell you why you should be afraid. They're going to tell you that, you know, all this nonsense. I don't need to watch that anymore. You know what I mean? Well, I don't need that. So I will watch other alternative news sources that are going to tell me something different. And, you know, the dangerous thing is that when you only look to one source and you don't look to the other, then where's your judgment coming from? So I don't get upset.
But if you're talking about a health pandemic, you don't want to listen to the news. You want to go to public health. You want to go to the health agencies.
Public health doesn't make any sense, though, either. We just locked down. Like, the reason we're in this lockdown right now is because Quebec was on lockdown and we couldn't be open.
No, and no one agreed with that, but Doug Ford did it anyway. So even you and I, we agree on this. We shouldn't be locked down right now. We need
like, it's ridiculous.
I want to go back to my original question, though, because you diverted very good. But you made a really good point, though. You said you don't know what it's like to be a woman. You don't know what it's like. I don't know what it's like to be a male. Right. But if you knew you were supporting someone who was whose reputation was a misogynist, as someone who's a woman hater, as someone who, whether that's a person or not, or someone you looked up to, what happens if one of your mentors comes out and an accusation is made? Same with me. I was called out for being a racist, and it was a really weird situation because I had let someone go, and I have to say, the words I said were not very nice. When I look back at them, they were not racist, but they were not nice, and the person. And I got to go through that as well. And from someone else's lens, I was the bad guy. I was the guy to cancel for that moment.
Right.
And it really opened my eyes to cancel culture. And I had a nice conversation with Anja about it last week, that there's cancel culture and there's like inquisitive culture, like, because but the way I got through that was the way I think everyone should do that, is like, let your reputation speak for itself. So in this case, I said nothing, because that was that woman's reality, is that she was pissed off about this situation. And I said, well, there's nothing I can say that won't add flame to this fire. And from her point, and I even read it, and I was like, you know what? It definitely seemed a little classist when I come down to it. I wasn't, maybe let HR do all the talking and not Jen, because Jen's not politically correct or whatever. So in that, I've been on both sides. So that's why I was coming back to this, because I don't necessarily think everyone would think I'm for cancel culture and I'm for that, but I'm also very careful who I associate different for me is different. I'm sure I have people who are like, why are you talking to Jason? Because he's different than you. Like, that's how we learn from each other. But when I want to, someone who comes and they have something like that, and they have all that power and all that charisma, say like Robbins. I only use him. I'm not like on a fucking mission against Robbins, right? Pardon my language, whoever's listening. But in the end, I think my ethics have to, when you say don't worry about that, don't put energy into that, I said that's irresponsible, because we have to put some energy into that, because we have to look out for our children. We have to look out for other people.
But that's your reality, though, is that you see him as being a certain way when other people don't. So I don't have to watch out for that, because that's not my experience.
A rapist unless they saw someone raping, but he's still a rapist, right? You can't just go by perceptions. Sometimes
that's a little extreme.
It is extreme, but I guess I'm saying
Robbins. I've seen Tony Robbins shame men like horribly. I've seen him.
So, I get that.
So then why can't we just say that? Why can't we just say that Tony Robbins just shames people? And maybe for him, like, people paid their money to sit in those seats, and a lot of money. And I'm just going to assume that they know what they're going to get at this point. If you're going to pay to be there for Tony Robbins, you know what you're getting, right? And they decide that that's what they want to be a part of. Now,
that was a good joke. Stop and acknowledge the joke. You just said they're asking for it.
But even like, for instance, Michael Jackson, right? Michael Jackson's history is just littered with, allegations.
People still send their kids.
You think I'm going to stop listening to Michael Jackson? Like, that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous.
Yeah. Have you seen Aziz Ansari's last Netflix special?
I may or may not have. They all come out with them so frequently now.
It was good, because he was one of the ones too that I was like, oh no, because people were trying to cancel him over a date that went wrong, and he came back and he did things right. He actually sat and reflected on his actions, and it was like the kind of response that I'd like. But maybe I'm prejudiced because I like him. But he had said something like that about, he's like, oh, okay, how many people here stop listening to R. Kelly when, and everyone's like, yeah, and he's like, okay, how many people stop listening to Michael Jackson? Nobody,
right? There's a social currency, right?
Well, and I think I'm in the same way. I was watching the Rocky Horror Picture Show one night, and I was talking about it, and someone's like, he is anti-trans. And I was like, I did not know that. Stop educating me, because now I have to know more. So when you say, like, you sound like that other guy, and I think he knows, because I've made fun of him a lot, is that happiness guy. Like, he's the happiness coach guy. I won't say his name because I don't want to. And he knows, like, when he talks, I'm like, he's like, well, you don't have to worry yourself with that. You don't have to put your energy there. You don't have to. And I was like, how can you live in your bubble and still be a socially responsible citizen? I'm not saying you do that at all, but how do people do that? This isn't about Tony Robbins. This is just, we'll get back to business in a moment, but this is a philosophical discussion about if you want to continue. You said, use your safe word if you want. His safe word is stop fucking Jen, shut up. But really think of, like, what do you think about that? Do you have a social responsibility to other people?
That's heavy. I think you have a social responsibility to yourself, and it starts there. And if you're treating yourself well, then you're treating other people well. I did this segment when I used to work on the radio called Words of Wisdom Wednesday. And it'd be like a minute and a half to like long would be 3 minutes, but a blurb about being kind, being caring, the importance of smiling. A lot of it was perception work, that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
And I remember, it sounds so cliche, but there was this paper bag that was blowing around in the wind one day, and I was heading to the bank, and for whatever reason, I grabbed it and I picked it up, and some lady saw it. She kind of smiled, and I said, like, every piece of garbage, if everyone picked up one piece of litter, and I turned it into a Words of Wisdom Wednesday, basically just saying that, if you cultivate your own garden, if everyone just cultivated their own garden, right, opposed to me going around and trying to decide what I want everybody else's garden to look like. For instance, I put up there's vegetables there, vegetables, and I have some plants there that are going to keep away the bugs, and you got some great spices. Like, why wouldn't you like that? This is a killer setup, but that person doesn't want a garden.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm wasting my time there when I could be cultivating mine more. So I really try to put my focus on just doing the best that I can do with me, to where just through people encountering me, coming into my sphere, right, it gives me an opportunity to pour on them. And if I'm
I agree with you, Jason.
And if I'm busy losing my mind over Tony Robbins, right? For instance, we could have kept on having that conversation about Tony Robbins. Now it led to this, right? But what's more productive? The conversation that we just had about Tony Robbins being a piece of poo, or this gem right here?
Well, I think those conversations have to come to get here. Otherwise, you and I, do you think we're going to schedule, hey, 10 a.m., could we discuss the bigger philosophical discussion? Because I think it has to, unless it's formalized. And I say
Absolutely.
I have a book. Let's fucking do it. The new podcast, Jen Bitches at Jason. But I mean, in fact, Josh and I started a little book club, and we're reading the first book, and it's really just Jen sharing stuff she likes, and because I don't want to read everything, so I wanted a book club where I didn't have to read, so I get to pick all the books. But the first book is called Illusions: The Adventures of a Reluctant Messiah. I don't know if you've read it, but it had that analogy, and so when you said you have to cultivate your own garden, and it's something that, like, it's weird because it goes against almost how I feel, but it makes a point I can't argue with. And the philosophy is the story that there's, and we'll get, 50 more minutes. Let me tell a story, then we'll go back to business. But there's a vampire, and a vampire approaches you, and he's very nice. He's nicely dressed. He says, "Hi, Jason. Listen, I'm a vampire. I was born a vampire. I'm really sorry that I'm a vampire, but it's who I am. And I only, live if I can get a little blood from people. So if you wouldn't mind sharing some blood with me, because otherwise I'm going to die. So, and then your choice basically is to do something you don't want to do, which is let someone suck your blood, or let someone die. And then who is one decision more wrong than the other? And so it's that it's basically the story of the philosophy. And I was like, in that sense, I probably would say, enjoy your life, vampire. I keep, no one touches my blood. So it's sort of like that little analogy. So just a little shout out to my book there. I love it.
And let me be very clear. I fuck up all the time. My theory is very strong. I wouldn't say I lose my temper lots. I don't. I can. Sometimes I allow life to frustrate me a little bit more than it should. But really practicing gratitude is something that grounds me.
That's a good lesson for sure.
One of the things that I share with everybody's upline is this scale, right? Like there's just this life scale. And taking things for granted is up here. It's always up here. Okay. Yeah. And it's because how many living miracles have happened in our bodies alone over this past 54 minutes at this point, to like one of us could have just dropped dead. And I mean, we're breathing, we're not thinking about it, we're blinking. The technology, like 20 years ago, they showed stuff like this, like in far out AT&T commercials, like it would never be a thing. Like, and now we're talking through our computers, like it's ridiculous. And I have like this fancy light that everybody in the world is using, right? What we're just trying to do to get the universal scale, just to pay attention to us, is making sure, I'm having a hard time with my hands here because it's all inverted, right? Is that here's everything for granted, right? And then here, this is us giving gratitude.
Yeah.
And all we're trying to do is just wiggle the scale that the universe notices. And I think the more that you wiggle that scale, the more the universe rewards you because it knows that you're trying. When you're just taking shit for granted and you're not giving gratitude, that's when life is garbage. There's nothing to celebrate there because you're not going out of your way to celebrate. For instance, like birthdays, as beautiful as they are, all you're doing is going out of your way to celebrate the day that somebody was born. Opposed to
you're celebrating your mom's ability to push something through her loins.
Yeah, but like why not celebrate that person? Like, hey, this is the anniversary of your first day alive after, and then the next day like they can all be anniversaries. They could all be special days, but we put efforts into like, these small chunks and period of time, like
I agree.
the holidays,
cake
right?
Every day. That's what I got out of that cake every
So just
day.
Try. And if you're not giving gratitude, you're just not trying at the end of the day.
I agree. I give gratitude every day. I'm grateful to stuff. No, I am. But I just want to say, Wendy Hawthorne says, thanks. I don't have to read the book. Yes, you do have to read the book. She said, book club. Yes, you do. There's more analogies than that. But Jason, I mean, we got off track a little bit, as I kind of thought we would. Did not think.
I think this is a great conversation. I'm enjoying it.
That's it. Yeah. Like I just, some of them were. Chris Urquhart was on. He's a friend of mine. He's an actor and he's multiple entrepreneur and he's great. And then I happened to be high and I didn't mean to. It was just Josh gave me an edible. I forgot about the show anyway. And halfway through, I was like, "What are you talking about?" But he was talking about the science of soil. And I love you, Chris. I'm going to have you on. We're going to have deeper conversations because. But that I get everything you said. For me, I still have to keep myself woke to some degree. I don't mean woke like the kids mean it, but like awake to what's going on, because I have a responsibility to my children who have mental health issues to be on top of what's going on in society. And as someone who has brought myself from welfare to where I am, I'm also someone who is a hustler, and I can look at the next 18 steps and I feel that you're the same kind of person and you're always looking at all the options in front of you. I think I just weigh the social impact, and more than I should, because it definitely weighs me down sometimes. But I definitely weigh that, and to the point where like my co-manager said, "Jen, you can't just keep giving stuff away for free in the business." They're like, we all won't have jobs at the end of the day if you don't get your head out of your ass. You're not here as a charity, you're here as a business. You take your money. And so we still do a lot of charitable things, but it helped. Those dialogues help because I come from a different world and that perception than perhaps other people. So out of all the titles you have, so personality, podcaster, educator or coach, showcase presenter, radio, what would be the most encapsulating word to describe Jason? J-Man Petrinuk.
I should probably come up with a fancy title for that. You know what? I'm just, for the sake and lack of a better term, and I don't like using it because it gets me stopped at the airport all the time, like where I'll say I'm an entrepreneur and they're like, "Well, what do you do?" I'm like, "Oh, fuck, here we go." Like there's a lot of
imagine if you tell them you're a comedian.
Right. Yeah, sure you are. Like, you telling me a joke right now? It's like, I'm out there just trying to add value. Yeah, I really am. And when I started the podcast, even I don't think it came from a place of value. I think it was more just, I think it was for me. Mm-hmm. And maybe that's why I stepped away for a while. And then I really shifted to where I need to make sure that I'm offering value to the marketplace. Right. So I think, if anything, I'm just that guy, just putting some money in the slots there, into the marketplace, hoping that, there's something that I do that, I pull that lever and it's a jackpot, and that means there's more wealth for everybody, so doing my best to help get other people's messages out there like you're doing right now, trying to be a positive beacon for people. It's another lesson is like,
Beacon.
everybody's an
A
expert.
beacon.
A beacon. Everybody's an expert, right? Is that they're always sometimes, especially when you've come a certain way, and like look how far you've come yourself, and as a business owner, entrepreneur, this and that, and all the different things that you've done in your life,
I'm
is
pretty
that
awesome. Yes.
there are simple things that you can do every day that you might think are super, super simple that have very complex reactions in people, right? So for instance, through building up a good network, trying to be a good individual and a communicator, and to be someone that spreads joy. I shared a video about, rising up, knowing how difficult that today's coronavirus landscape is.
Yeah.
And, I think 70 people liked it, 55 people shared it. And, it brought some people to tears, right? So I can decide to, share material like that, or I could just, stir the pot, be a shitty person, not give a crap, right? So always making that conscious decision to try to add value to the marketplace, definitely socially. And then, you know what, if I want to come home and kick the cat, which I do not have, I don't have a cat.
Jason.
But if I want to come home and I want to be a poopy person, that's one thing, right? But just doing my best to show up for people otherwise.
But I think that's why, I mean, if I sense that for you for a second, I wouldn't be here talking to you if I didn't sense authenticity. Like, to me, that's the first thing, right? Like I was trying to come up with a tagline for me, and I just like alliteration. So I was like, well, I'm raw because I don't really work hard at this.
Right.
I'm real, and I'm ridiculous because sometimes because I tried to do the sock puppet thing and no one wanted it.
Yeah, right.
I was like, I like sock puppets, but
they are cool.
It's something I strive for, is to be silly, and I'm not. I'm too serious. Like I'm just, childhood trauma or whatever. I'm funny, but I'm actually not. Someone actually said to me, I'm on one of the radio stations where actually we did some bartering. We're going to be advertising. And then he said, and I'm friends with, I'll give him a shout out, Glenn Foster, who's also a comedian, but he has a little more prestige in JFL and stuff like that. And he's worked for us a bit. And he says, oh, it must be so fun to be a comedian. It must be so fun to be friends with a comedian. And I said, nah. I said, way more funny on stage, a lot of us, than off. There's some who are funnier off than on, but just because you have that, but you're authentic, right? Because whatever you're doing, and I think when my lawyer has actually said about me, and I think he said, like, when I was, when the going got tough this year, he said, you've got a lot in the karma bank, and I didn't really know what that meant. But it really is like, did you watch Seinfeld? Of course you did. You're 43.
You know what? I've maybe seen 3 episodes.
Okay, well, this interview is done. Well, I guess you don't like shallow. They're very shallow people. Jason, I didn't even realize that we have such a good talk that, like, we were talking for an hour. So I think we should have our own debate show. We should just pick a fucking topic, like, randomly, and just go at it. You're like, oh, shit.
Know what it is? It's like I have this other podcast that I dibble dabble with called What the Fuck Podcast, right? And that's just something I do on my own when something pops up when I'm like, well, what the fuck? Like the closing of Mooney's Bay Hill and the Rideau Canal restrictions. I don't even know what they are. I really just don't even care. And I don't even know if they're enforcing them. But what I like about it is just me having this monologue. And then, other than that, like, if someone doesn't like it, I just don't give a shit. Like, people can decide what they want to do with that information. I think that's powerful, right? I'm not going to tell someone that they shouldn't have a debate about something. Debate can be healthy. There's a healthy level of conflict, in fact, in any successful business, right? And I like the fact that I can just do it and be done with it, opposed to having a conversation with someone. And I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, if it's done properly, of course, there's healthy debate where you can, like a healthy debate where there are new realizations made, or you're respecting the other person's point of view, which you've done a phenomenal job of today, by the way. I appreciate you just kind of like letting me have my say. But it's unfortunate that
I've mentioned it 18 times so far today.
Right. Debates, unfortunately, are usually it's conflict, right? And that's actually been one of my things in regards to doing anything that's COVID related. Is I want to be able to help people with my podcast through resources that will help them get through COVID, but I don't want to talk too much per se about COVID itself, because
God,
that
yes.
is super
Well,
divisive.
that's it. Well, and that's why we
Right.
didn't talk about it here. That was one of my
Right.
things. I said, same thing. I said,
Right.
I'm doing this sort of like you did for me, for fun, but I like talking to people, right? I
Right.
happen to know interesting people, and I think other people should listen to my interesting people.
Right.
And then we'll go from there. Like we've got a painter on, we've got a rock star, we've got you, we've got everybody, right? Like there's,
Right.
I just think there's lessons to be learned, and you've provided some, and people like you said can take what they want, leave the rest.
Right.
You know, I like the stuff about gratitude, and that's good. I mean, if all they took away was Jen's awesome, they really weren't listening hard enough. But I have this. I don't know what it is. It's a self-depreciating, but it's not. Do you know what I mean? Like I'm just me and whatever. But this is what people have liked. That's why I write for CBC. That's why I do all the things. Little plug. So Jason, unfortunately, we're gonna need to go because the edibles are going to kick in right away. That's what I
Yeah,
do.
it's like my body's starting to tingle. Uh-oh.
I gotta go upstairs with my husband. So no, I just want to thank you so much. This was a very good dialogue. Everyone, definitely check it. If you're needing some help with MLM, go to his upline. Not everyone's upline, but Jason's upline.
That's right. Don't go to your upline. They suck. Go see me.
Yeah, go see Jason. Definitely do that. Check his podcast out. If you need a dog watch, he's going to do that during COVID.
Right. Oh, and we are still taking registrations for Showcase at showcase@petawawa.ca, just in case. Like you can inquire, at least download the vendor
registration and advocate and fight that Jen Hayward should be the MC, even though
that's right.
It's his show. It's his show, but
and website, graphic design, print materials, whatever it might be, gallantmedia.ca. We can help you with that too.
There you go. They do everything. He's literally a jack of all trades.
Literally do everything.
He has not put Gigolo on the list, so I'm not going to add it. But it's.
But I'm going to start making sex toys, though. I heard that's an incredible industry to be in.
You got to do, right?
Go for it delivers. Same day delivery. Don't
same day. We have to leave. We got to leave on your joke because mine was so inappropriate. So, okay,
don't spend your money on those other guys. You get your deliveries done by Go For It.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, most people should know that. Unless it's restaurant food, then go somewhere else. That's not what we do. Listen, Jason, I want to thank everyone for showing here, watching, share it around, tag Jason, give him some love or hate, whatever, you know, give him love, preferably. I don't mean hate. He's not Tony Robbins. He just loves him.
Take care, guys.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Jen. Bye.
Goodbye.